Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. I am Roshan Jaswal, co-founder of InsuredMine, a software platform with CRM, sales and marketing automation, designed and developed only for insurance industry. For those of you just joining us, welcome. A recorded session of this webinar will be available on InsuredMine website. I would like to introduce today's moderator, Mick, founder and CEO of Premier Strategy Box and an experienced sales and operations executive who assists agents in utilizing data analytics, sales and efficiency strategies in support of revenue growth for independent insurance agencies. So without further ado, Mick, why don't we get started?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Roshan. Roshan reached out to me about 30 days ago and said, I want to do a webinar around sales. Do you mind having a conversation with me? And I said, Roshan, that's great. I can do it and all, but I like to get the band together, right? There's a group of guys that I trust and respect in the industry that really define their own sales processes, and we all think very uniquely, but also different at the same time, right? So, when we talk processes, you can't spell process without Billy Williams. Trust me, I tried it. You can't do it, right? Billy is actually my personal mentor as well. So I definitely wanted to get him on the call. Charles Specht, who is the king of broker of records and prospecting, known Charles for a while. Actually, I work with Charles with some of my current clients as well too. Then we get to Walt, who does some amazing things with LinkedIn. Love everything that Walt does. And then if you guys don't know Ryan Hanley, shame on yourself, right? It's a guy that needs no introduction. So, as Roshan was building this, I thought it would be better if we got this group of guys together, talk about prospecting process and a sales process. And that's kind of what led us here today. And what you guys are going to hear is a free-flowing conversation where you're going to hear who I call the best of the best talk about the way that they do things. And I'll kind of kick it off by saying I'm a firm believer that there's a prospecting process and then a sales process. I think a lot of agents, producers, salespeople try to make that one process. In my mind, that's two distinct processes. I was always taught that you prospect to suspects and you sell to prospects. Right. So, that's kind of me and my belief. So I'll kind of kick that thought over to the guys and then, start with my mentor, Billy Williams.
Well, the real issue with that is people don't have a workflow, so they don't know where the cutoff is between a prospect and the cutoff is between starting your sales. So for me, it's all based on where is that person in their research model. Okay. For me, the sales or the entire customer acquisition process has 8 steps. And the middle of that is research, which means if you come to me and you have not researched, you have not compared, you have not done anything, you're not ready to buy. Okay. You're just not. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't close you, but if I close someone who hasn't truly done their research, I just bought a headache. Okay, and I don't like headaches, right. But someone who has done their research, and sometimes we have to teach them how to research, how to compare, so that they're not second guessing what they actually are paying for. So that's where I'd make my cutoff is how much research has this person done? Have they done enough research to be ready to go into the sales part of this? Or are they still in the prospect part of this?
Love it. Love it. Charles, what do you have to say to that?
Well, I like to put people in a percentage or in a box, if you will. So I've got 10% of insurance buyers out there right now are not happy, and they will sign over their insurance to you because they just can't stand their agent or account manager, or the carrier dropped the ball and there was a bad claim and they're going to blame you. They're just not happy. There's another 10% out there who you're never going to get them because their brother-in-law is the insurance agent or it's their college buddy, whatever it is. And then everybody else is on a spectrum somewhere, and they're somewhere close to either being loyal or they're somewhere close to being not happy. And so I always look at prospecting as a bit of a numbers game because you're out there trying to find the right ones. Selling is not a numbers game. Selling is something that's completely different. But the prospecting, from a numbers standpoint, the more that you do it, the better results you're going to have. If you don't prospect, you can't sell anything. But we're out there trying to find the right people who are going to fit the product or the service that you've got. And frankly, there's more insureds out there who are not quite happy, satisfied, or loyal with their current agent, and you just have to actually find them.
Agree. Walt, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, I think I would just mirror some of those things that Charles said. And, we can argue the percentages, but I think that's pretty accurate. And it's a case of, focusing on those opportunities of people that aren't happy. They're actively involved in the buying process. Maybe they're problem aware. They may not be solution aware. And that's where it really comes into, what are you telling them? How effective is your messaging? Because really, and I talked about this yesterday in a webinar that I did, it's really pretty simple. A lead's created when the right message hits the right market or the right potential buyer. And then the 80% that Charles talked about there, it's a matter of timing. Maybe you hit them at the right time when, their current agent dropped the ball on something and they're open to hearing that message. And so part of the process from a prospecting standpoint is also building follow-up prospecting systems and processes, where I think that's a lot of the opportunity. There's 80% of that market that's out there that I think a lot of people miss because they just don't have the processes to keep their name, to keep their messaging in front of those people.
I love it. Mr. Hanley.
You guys are so much better at this than I am.
Stop it.
Ryan, you're the master. You're the master of marketing.
Yeah, talk about staying in front of
try
people
that.
with content. You're the guy, man.
Well,
Yeah. So don't even try that, Ryan. Come on now.
Well, no. So here's what I would say. I think that I think there are a million ways to skin the cat. I think that I was told a long time ago when it comes to creating content, and I think this applies wholeheartedly to prospecting, sales. Let's put it all in the bucket of building relationships and providing solutions for businesses, right? And really, this goes for anything, not just commercial insurance. Goes for personal insurance as well. The process is a little different, but there are ways to do things, and you have different skill levels in all those ways. So someone might tell you cold calling is the gangster method for getting stuff done. Get a good headset, get a good, easy, ergonomic keypad on your phone, and start dialing for dollars. Except you are terrible on the phone. You're absolutely terrible. So now this way that is the guru's, number one mantra for getting stuff done, you're terrible at it. So should you do it? Maybe a little, because you never know. You can always get better. But it's misaligned with your personality. I found this out very early in my insurance career. For me, what I'm good at, I am very comfortable being authentic and highly transparent. I believe in education and knowledge before all else, and then I allow people to self-select into wanting to do business with me. Now, I think that I personally have a fault where I can go too far with that and not be, I need a little bit of that, hey, just go ask for that sale too. I need a little bit of that sometimes. But for me, I found that education, marketing, content, outreach, this is where I'm good. So I really double into that spot versus other things like, Troy Thompson's up in Minnesota knocking on doors, walking door to door, knocking on people's doors. Like, I think that is some of the most gangster shit I've ever heard of in my life. I will never do that. I will never, ever do that method. Even if you told me it is a 90% close ratio, I am not walking door to door. So I think that everything that everybody said so far, coupled with we also have to be self-aware enough to align what we were really good at with a method that works, if that makes sense.
Perfect. And that actually segues into what I was going to say, because I believe you as well. It has to be authentic to yourself, right? So with my agency, we had 3 methods of prospecting. So we had email campaigns. I wholeheartedly believe that what you say, when you say it, and how you say it matters, right? One of the things that I learned from Billy is the psychological advantages of the words that you use, right? There's actually a truth to certain words that you use. So when we do our email sequencing and our email campaigns, and even with my clients now, as my team's building that out, we really harp on what we say, when we say it, and how we say it, right? To me, that was really important. Another method was niche association meeting. So I made all of my producers have a niche market and take it a step further and join an association in that niche, right? To me, you know, we talked about it being a numbers game, right? Those association meetings, whether it's an electrical contractor, whether it's a restaurant, you're going to be in front of people that you can't get in front of in any other way without going to that association, and you become a subject matter expert there. And then we also outsourced appointment setting. You know, some people call it telemarketing. I don't do telemarketing. I don't need X dates. I can get X dates, right? We had people that set appointments for us, so they took some of that on their end. So, you know, I'm going to, again, go back to my mentor and start with him. What are some of the effective prospect methods that you've seen or that you teach out there as well?
All right. So here's the deal, guys. Let's keep things simple. You guys know I'm simple as hell. I'm not that smart. So there are 5 best prospects and there are 10 ways to market to them. Okay. I don't care how fancy dancy you look at shit and how much you do stuff. There are 5 best prospects and 10 ways of looking at them. So I'm going to take you over to my board. Okay. I don't know if you guys can actually see this.
How did it take you this long to get to a list? This is like a new record.
Right, because this is how I work, my man. So your 5 best prospects. I don't know what you guys can see. I think you can see it. My 5 best prospects. Current
Hold on a second. I got to take a picture of this thing right here.
Go ahead, do it.
Oh, there it is.
Got it. Man, I live by this every day. This is how I run $1 billion business on this damn little board right here, okay? So your current customers, referrals and testimonials from other businesses, people that are actively seeking information about your products and services. Maybe they watched a video, they did a Google search, they attended a conference call or webinar. Number 4, former customers, people that loved you in the past. And then number 5, people with a possible upcoming need for your products and services, like new movers, just married, recently divorced, new baby, new business, that kind of stuff, right? And then how are the 10 ways that I can market to them? I can do signs like business cards, flyers, things, billboards. I can do signs, phone, email, referrals and testimonials, text messaging, online searches, social network, postal mail, group presentations, and lead magnets, such as web forms, podcasts, registration, books, videos, YouTube, all that. Guys, I'm not smart enough to make this shit complicated, okay? I'm not. So we just work our process. And long as I can give people, look, just do these 5 things, look for these 5 types of prospects and do these 10 things, whether it's Ryan doing, you know, whose real strength is lead magnets, you know, or whether it's Mick, whose real strength is testimonials and referrals through associations and things like that, whether it's Charles or whether it's Walt or whatever you do these 10 things. Try to do all 10 if you can, but at least focus on your top 2 or 3 that match your personality and do that shit every day.
God,
Sorry,
I told you.
That took way too long. I apologize, but
I told you cannot spell process without Billy Williams. Everything is going to be broken down to a process, and that's why that's why he's my mentor. That's it. So Charles, I know Charles like trademarked the term micro niche, right? Like I know Charles believes in niche marketing. So why don't you talk about, you know, what are your methods from a prospecting standpoint?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like half of what you said and half of what Ryan said. So, you know, when I'm talking to an insurance producer, if I can tell within 3 seconds whether they're good on the phone, and if they're not good on the phone, I'm not going to try and teach them how to cold call. I really feel you have to have a 3-prong approach or probably a 4-prong approach. And that is the email, social media, it could be telephone, and maybe it's a walk-in visit. But you have to have 3, if not 4. And the thing is that it's not just your strengths, because you could be strong at some of those and maybe you're poor at the cold calling, and you focus on your strength. But the issue is your prospect, because your prospect might not actually respond with a cold call. They just don't like it. They delete it. But maybe the email is where they're actually going to respond. It might stay in their inbox for 2 months before they respond to it. Or maybe it's the social media. That's really where they feel comfortable actually responding to you. So if you're reaching out to them in different ways at different times, you're going to hit the prospect in the way in which he or she is most comfortable. And that's really then where the prospecting begins to work, because every micro niche is different, but the thing is, every single person is different. And what works for Billy's not going to work for Ryan, and what works for Ryan's not going to work for Walt. Everybody's different. Everybody has their strengths. But the big issue is that the prospect wants to be communicated with in a certain way. And when you can find that particular way at the right time with that prospect, that's where the money's made.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, I know LinkedIn and social is a big avenue for you. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, I think I just would confirm what Charles said. I think, LinkedIn is just one way. You still have to have the multi-touches, the multiple approaches that fit. And I think it's a balance sometimes to find out where your strengths really are as far as how you communicate, how you persuade people. But what drives it is, it doesn't matter how strong you are. You can write the greatest articles or produce the greatest videos. If your market isn't seeing them, it doesn't much matter. The market is going to dictate which prospecting methods are going to be most effective. And I think to confirm what Charles said, when you really focus on a micro niche, most of the people within that niche are going to, they're going to be comfortable with the same types of approaches. Most of those businesses are going to say, yeah, we respond to email, or we respond to in-person meetings, or whatever. You're going to see similarities among similar businesses because that's just simply the way they operate. And it just makes the prospecting that much easier instead of saying, geez, I need to figure out 5 different ways to get in front of people with 5 different markets.
Yep, I agree.
So one quick poll let's do as we all have been talking about the process and how important is different process to different people in different market. How many of you guys even think that all of these agencies out there have a sales process? Forget about going into the details of it. So we'll launch a quick
very
poll.
few.
Yeah, we'll launch a quick poll, give another probably 30 seconds or so. Let's see how many of them are responding.
There you
Well,
go.
I think all of them have a sales process. The key is, do they control and know their sales process? And there are a lot of agencies. I mean, you can't run insurance without having a sales process. You just may not even know what the hell that process is.
Right.
You know what I mean? You just show up every day and the process takes over and does its own thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's the 2 things that Mick talked about earlier is, you might have a sales process that once you get a sales qualified lead, all the steps you need to do to start to, in other words, qualify that lead. You go out and visit them, you do all the information gathering, you gather it all up, you submit it to a carrier, you get the broker record letter, you do the search, you package it all up, you have the proactive service plan after the fact. So I think a lot of agencies have sales processes. Maybe they're not quite as defined. Maybe they're not taking advantage of all the opportunities within that sales process. But I see very few agencies who have defined prospecting processes. And I talked about that yesterday in the webinar. And it's kind of like, it's like a wheel. If you're not turning the wheel and both sides of that, you're going to fall down. Your book of business isn't going to grow if you're not turning both parts of that wheel.
Yep. Hey, and we just had a good question come up, and I'm gonna let my mentor take this. So someone wants to say, Benjamin, the issue that I see is converting from a lead to a client, and he wants to talk about the sales process. So you've got them as a lead, you've already got them as a prospect. How do you go from a lead to a client? I'm gonna let my mentor start.
Yeah, I don't take people from lead to client. I let people make that natural transition on their own. Yep. And the way I do that is by lead scoring. That's one of the real issues that is in our industry. People don't understand lead scoring. So they don't know when a person is 60% ready to close, 70% ready to close, 80%. So the thing I would tell you, because I like to give exacts, I don't like to talk in generalities. So what I would tell you is, going back to what I said originally about research, once a person has said, I have these 2 or 3 problems, and you ask, if I can figure out a way to solve this problem, these 2 or 3 problems for you, can we do business together? If they say, well, I want to do a little bit more research, they're still a lead. Mm-hmm. If they say, well, let me talk to my other partner, they're still a lead. Mm-hmm. If they say, yes, if you can show me how to solve this and, I can afford it, I'm ready to do business. Now that's a prospect. So I need a commitment, but that's all part of lead scoring. So for me, as an example, Mick, when a person watches a video, that is like, if I was doing a scale of 1 to 10, that's like a 2. Okay, you interacted with something that I did. When you fill out a form, you'd fill out a lead magnet, you give me contact information, now you're about a 4 or a 5. But it's not until you tell me, yes, if you can solve my problem, I will do business with you, that I consider you a prospect.
I think a lot of times agents just don't ask that question. They don't know if they have a sales qualified lead, because for whatever the reason, they're just not asking that question. Will you do business with me if I can do this, if I can solve your problem?
I actually think it's
really,
I think
it's a
there's
pretty
even,
simple question, but it takes some guts.
I think it's even like another side of the coin, though. It's not so much, will you do business with me? Because they might flat out, lie to you or say, even in their own minds, yeah, I'd be willing to do business with you. But really the issue is, will you fire your agent in order to do business with me?
Even
That's
better.
the hard thing. If you can't get the competition fired, you can't get a client.
Charles, that was a major change for me in my career as a salesperson, not just an insurance salesperson, is when I started, you're hiring me. Is right. Whether I'm selling you advertising to an event or a commercial insurance policy or a speaking engagement, you're hiring me. Are you ready to hire me and my organization, depending on your situation? That mentality, that simple shift in mentality, I think it's enormous. Whether you're banging out home and autos or you're going after big fish commercial accounts, that mentality that they're hiring you, not buying your shit, is a major game changer from my perspective.
Yeah.
I know it changed my career, and I didn't figure it out until halfway through maybe my time at Trusted Choice Agency Nation. I don't even know where I heard it, but somewhere in there, I started thinking with that methodology, and it really changed the way that I sold anything, and I keep it to this day.
Yeah. Well, Ron, the difference is those are folks who believe in me. I am the product versus let me find you the cheapest price I can. Some people believe that price is the product. They don't believe that they are the product. They don't believe that even their product is the product. They think that price is the product. So that's a maturity that a lot of agents just haven't grown into yet.
So there was something I wanted to jump in on before real quick. And it's this idea. I shared this in a video I did a couple of days ago, but there's this quote from Bruce Lee, be like water. Water becomes the cup, water becomes the dish, or whatever he says there. If I'm going to keep using it, I probably have to figure out exactly what it is. But the idea is, and this is what I found just in the 6 weeks that I have been selling insurance for Rogue, is that the worst thing you can do, I think, to be successful in this business is carry an ego, because you are going to get punched in the face every single day. And what I found is, by losing the ego and figuring out what works, working to my strengths, figuring out what works, timing. I mean, I have done just about every prospecting method that exists except for drop stuff up at businesses, because there hasn't been a day that Rogue has existed that COVID wasn't a thing. But and I had to I had a plan. And when COVID happened, that plan went flying out the door. So if I kept my ego and was like, I'm only going to do business this way because that's the right way that wouldn't work. I'm direct mailing. I'm cold emailing. I got tons of content going. I'm using LinkedIn. I got 10 million methods. because they just don't know. And I think that's a big part of it too, is we allow our egos to keep us from following up 7 times, right? We call one time to a lead and we're like, oh, they didn't pick up. That one's gone. And it's like, no, you got to call, email. And I think it's ego is the problem.
You didn't read my book my ebook I put out yesterday, did you, Ryan?
Ice cream.
Ice
Yeah, there you
cream.
go.
Ice
I did
cream.
not
Well,
read
Ryan,
it.
you've read Ice Cream before. You've heard about it.
I was at the meeting in February. I know all about it.
So here's the deal. Ego is what you do. Arrogance is what you refuse to do. Okay? Ego is what you do. Arrogance is what you refuse to do. So actually, Ryan, they want that ego because ego is going to make them get up in the morning, knock on those doors, regardless of what someone says. It's that arrogance that they have to watch out for.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, I think the arrogance, you just shut yourself off from being able to grow from your mistakes or being open to new ideas and other methods that maybe someone else paved the way that works, but you're dismissing it because you're too arrogant to even take a look at it.
Yep.
Which is really, that's just dumb.
I was talking to an agent the other day. In fact, it's one of my partners, I'm ashamed to say. And he's like, oh, we refuse to write anyone that's under a $500,000 combined limit. I'm like, well, first and foremost, that's some bullshit because as your partner, you're cutting into my money now. Okay. Second of all, there are a lot of people that, man, they're not going to be able to afford that. If I've been laid off, if my job has been downsized, if something has happened, and now I'm coming to you and you're like, well, if you're going to write less than 500,000, I'm not going to deal with you. That's some bullshit, pure and simple. Okay. So like Ryan was saying, guys, you've got to be like water. You got to flow with your customers as they go through this and understand what they're going through, not just what you want to take them through.
Agree. All right. So we just got a question from Steven. How should a brand new producer develop their sales and prospecting process? Charles, I'm going to let you start with that one, and then I'm going to have a follow-up to it as well.
Yeah, and then Ryan's got to jump in too because he's the baby.
Yeah,
he's the baby in the room.
He's the guy doing it.
Yeah, he's the Similac drinker right now. Give him some Pedialyte.
I mean, I did do this for 8 years before.
Yeah, but it's not the same as when you open your own agency. It's a whole different world.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
Sales process can start in a few different ways. First and foremost, I kind of back into it. I ask yourself how much you want to make, how many clients can you actually service on a full-time basis? If you're going to put in 40 hours a week, how many clients can you service for 40 hours a week? It depends upon, what industry you're going to be going after. So if you're going after commercial real estate, that's not too service intensive, you can have more clients. If you're doing a service and repair contractor that requires a lot of service, you're going to have less clients. So first and foremost, you have to decide how much you want to make. How much is your book of business going to be? And then how many clients is that going to be? Then you simply just do the mathematics, right? You divide, because that's going to tell you how big the client needs to be that you're going to start prospecting. So if you're going to be going after, if you want $1 million book of business, you think you can handle 50 clients, that's going to tell you need to have clients that are 20 grand of revenue coming in. And that's the size account that you need to be prospecting. So the first thing is just the mathematics. Unfortunately, most insurance agents don't have a real process. And so they're just throwing mud up against the wall to see what sticks. And then they end up saying, well, I've got, 17 clients that they're $300 of commission each. And so that's where they just made a mistake. They didn't actually just do the basic math to begin with. But that's really where we start with. Then it's what are you going to write? And that's where we talk about that micro niche, right? Because I don't want to be like another fish in the ocean. I want to be the biggest fish in the pond that nobody messes with. That's my pond. And everything else is below me, if you will. And that pond, you don't need to have that many clients. If you're only going to have 50, you don't have to worry about prospecting to everybody. You just have to find your 50, and you find your 50 in whatever micro niche you're going to go after. And then you become the dominant player inside that micro niche. And so once you figure out what that micro niche is, then you kind of decide on what are the major problems that industry is dealing with, insurance or non-insurance related, right? So if you're going after truckers pay a lot for insurance, but their biggest fear is they can't find drivers, because if they can't find any drivers, they're going to be out of business. So that's a major problem that they're dealing with. Now, right now, I've got a client who, he wrote a $1.2 million commission policy on broker of record letter for trucker. And it's not because he was great on the insurance, although he was pretty good on the insurance. It's because he created a way in which to help trucking companies find new drivers. He created an answer to the problem they were having, and he used that even for his prospecting. He would call them, hey, I'm an insurance guy, come and help you, but I actually have a way in which you can find new drivers. And so he put this together with regards to Google ads and Facebook ads, and he only does it for current clients. And so you find out what the problems are of the particular micro niche that you're going after, and you put together the solutions. And once you start then really just going through the process of becoming the solution provider for the bigger problem that they're having in their micro niche, you're going to get yourself a reputation really quick. And if you're doing it in an industry that's referral based, where it's not necessarily competitive with one another, you're going to end up getting a lot of referrals because your reputation is going to go around very quickly. Mm-hmm. But I mean, those are kind of like the basics of where I would start, but you just have to remember that if you can't get the person fired, you're not going to get a client. It really just comes down to that. Doesn't matter how good you are, how suave, it doesn't matter what services you can provide. I don't care if you're with Marsh or with your mom and pop shop down the street. If you can't get the other insurance agent fired, it doesn't matter whatever else you can do. So there has to be a lot of pre-qualification in that whole process.
I agree 1,000%. And Stephen, one other thing I will add to that I think is key for any producer, new or old, is you need to have a bank of interview questions. I look at the sales process, for me, it starts as an interview process. And when you go on a job interview, who talks more, the company or the candidate? It should be the candidate, right? So you need to build your interview questions to get the candidate to talk, right? That's how you build rapport. People are comfortable when they're talking about themselves, about their business, versus you asking them questions and it's a back and forth. So Stephen, build a good bank of 5 questions that are not industry specific to where you can learn about the behaviors of your prospect / lead. That's going to help you tremendously.
Yeah. And Stephen, along with that, make sure that if you just need something to kind of work with, facts, FACTS, goals, obstacles, and then talk solutions. But until you know the facts, where's that customer right now at this moment? What are their real goals? Not what are the bullshit goals they're telling you, but what are the real goals? And that requires you keep asking, well, why is that? Well, why is that? Well, why is that? You know, you got to go 3 or 4 whys deep before you find the real goals, because they're just going to give you the, oh, I want to save money. Really? Why is that? Because I feel like I'm paying too much for this. Really? Why is that? Because the agent never explained it to me.
Bingo.
Okay, so you had to go 3 deep before you even found that. So facts, goals, and then obstacles. What's keeping you up at night? What's stopping you from hitting those real goals that we discovered for you? Because if I can't fix the real, if I can't put real obstacles or put real names to real obstacles that are stopping your goal. See, sometimes we're so busy solving the solution that we don't really solve the problem. Okay. And I know Charles I've read many things he's written, and he's talked about that. We're so busy out there solving the solution, you know, that we completely ignore what the person's real problem. So long story short, facts, goals, obstacles, solutions. Build your questions in that order.
Yep. So
and
Ryan,
even with what Billy, if I can add one thing to even what Billy would just said, is that I know this from personal experience because I was a producer myself for 11 years before now consulting for 10 years, is that the average insured doesn't even know necessarily what their problems are yet. Sometimes you really have to spend some time talking so that they can figure out what the issues are. Because if they've been with the same agent, for example, for 7 years, they don't know what good service and what bad services is. They just know what they've been getting. And so you have to potentially, spend some time really uncovering what the problem is. Like even give you an example of maybe how you're doing that when the last thing you want to do is you don't want to drag your competition under the bus. That's just not nice, not ethical. I wouldn't ever suggest that. So you should potentially then, once you're figuring out what are some of the major problems in that industry, whether it's like transportation and finding drivers, or even if it's insurance related, you establish the fact of your superior service. And then you ask the question, what's been your experience when you're getting that same thing from your current agent? Because again, they probably don't know. And so you might say something like this. One of the things that I do for my clients is we actually take a look at your workers' compensation, because your XMOD very often can be inflated based upon the unit stat filing that takes place 6 months before your policy renews. And so we've been able to actually get our clients to have their XMOD go down anywhere from 11 to 17% by monitoring those claims, meeting with you, working with the adjusters to get the claims closed and make sure that the proper payrolls are being sent from the carrier to the WCIRB. And so we're able to get our clients anywhere from 11 to 17% lower on their workers' compensation XMOD, which is saving them money. And so we meet with you every single month. And so I guess my question to you would be, is when your agent meets with you each month and they go over the claims and what they've done from the adjusting and the unit stat filing, what has been your experience with that? And so I'm asking the questions with the expectation that the other agent is a bum and hasn't done it. I don't know it, but I also know that a lot of agents out there promise the sun, moon, and stars, and they just simply haven't actually done it. And so you find the problems that you think are going to be the issues, even if they don't quite know it yet, and you ask the question in a way that doesn't bring your competition under the bus, but it makes them start thinking, oh, my agent doesn't do that. Oh, I wonder why my agent has never done that. Maybe I'm paying too much for my insurance. Because if I tell them it's not going to be true, but if they come to the assumption themselves, then I'm that much closer to picking up a check.
Perfect. Ryan, anything to add into Stephen being a new producer? And then I've got a specific question someone asked for Billy.
Yeah, if you're new, just go write business. Just listen to anything that these guys are saying and just go write every single thing that you can get your hands on. And it's going to be shitty business and you're not going to make a lot of money on it. And here's why. Here's why I say that. And you basically have a 6-month window to do this. You need to get punched in the face a bunch of times. You are not ready unless you are a skilled salesperson from another industry. You're not ready for what Charles just said. Now, in 6 months after getting punched in the face, you will be ready to do exactly what he said. And because what he's saying is absolutely positively, Billy, Mick, Walt, what everyone's saying is exactly what you should be doing. But if you're new, just get it wherever you can, however you can do it. Feel what it's like to sell on nothing but price and have a shitty client come in who's going to call you 1,000,000 times and hate it. Because if you don't know what that's like, you're not going to know that you don't want it. Because the next shiny thing that comes in, the next triple Facebook ad campaign hack is you're going to chase it and it's going to not be what you want. So my recommendation would be, when you're new, is go do everything, write every account you can get your hands on, regardless of premium. Feel what it's like to write an $18 commission cyber policy, right? Feel what that's like to get an $18 commission check, because you'll hate it and you'll want to go do it the right way. That's my best advice.
There you go.
Now that's why you put this panel together, for that variety of opinions. I love it, Ryan.
Let me
if I can add one more thing to the new producer, and I see this from new producers to producers that have been around and then seasoned producers as well, is that, I'm going to talk about the broker of record letter, right? That's what we're going for, because I see that as the trophy. And here's the thing. I think you should probably always ask for the BOR in that first meeting. I don't care if this is your first time ever meeting with a prospect, and here's why. Because if they tell you no, that has told me a lot of information. I know a lot of information now because I've gone through it trying to find the problems and trying to really poke for the pain. And if I've gone through and provided all my solutions and then I ask for the business and you tell me no, I'm probably not going to go through a quoting process because it's very unlikely you're going to do business with me. So I would ask for that broker of record letter or some kind of commitment, because it's going to tell me the likelihood of getting this business in the future.
Charles, not to ask you to give away all your Kool-Aid, but what is that transition in a first meeting? What does that transition to the BOR ask look like at a high level?
Well, as I said earlier about that depending upon what it is, 10, 15% of insurance buyers they're not happy, satisfied, or loyal with their current agent, and they will sign it for anyone who shows up if they even know it's an option, because most of them don't know. The current agent never told them there's a BOR that's there that they can sign. The carrier never told them. So the only way they would know is if a competing agent actually does it. And I can tell you most competing agents actually don't. And so it does simply come down to uncovering the pain, right? The major problems that they're dealing with. And I usually, once you've gone in, you've built the rapport, you're talking about their industry, I usually say you start with the insurance carrier and the policy, because that's still neutral territory. I'm finding out if there's been problems in the policy language, maybe the carrier hasn't paid a claim, whatever it is. I'm finding the problems there, because maybe it's not the carrier, maybe the carrier is an issue. The rate's too high, or there's an exclusion for 65% of their revenue because they need this ingredient, but the ingredient's actually excluded. So we start with the insurance carrier because that's neutral ground. And then we go into the account manager, because I would say that about 50% of the BORs that I see signed out there aren't because the producer dropped the ball, it's because the agency personnel has dropped the ball. The account manager's rude, the receptionist is rude, or the person who's doing the claims, management for the workers' compensation side has dropped the ball and not done a good job.
Can I interrupt you and ask you a follow-up question for that point before you go to your next one? Sorry, I can't get out of interview mode when I'm in these scenarios. So do you find that to also be the case on customer carrier call center business? If say, do you find if I have an account manager, if I'm going up against an account manager at a local agency, I feel really strong versus an account manager. I haven't come up against many customer care centers, but I'm just interested if you have, because my business is 100% customer care center. So I'm, Cincinnati is servicing the commercial policies that I have with them. I am not servicing those policies. I was just interested.
Yeah, I would say that I would probably be able to develop a stronger argument of why the carrier call center is a worse thing than the account manager. I think I could probably do it because, again, you don't know who's actually there working on your claim. And by the way, they probably might leave or get fired or whatever it is in the middle of it. And then what are you going to do? Who exactly are you going to call? But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's true, because every insured is different, and they don't, maybe their own experience hasn't been negative, and maybe they've been okay with it. So, and maybe they've never had a claim, so it's not even an issue to them.
Yep. Nope. I agree. And,
thank you.
And Stephen, just really quick, I've got a client of mine who's 3 months into the insurance world as a producer, has been with me for 2 weeks, and just got a $75,000 revenue AOR last night. So,
which is why I'm full of shit.
No.
You got to ask for the BOR, Hanley. Let's go get that BOR.
You don't ask. I'm all about, in my sales process and what I coach, I'm all about getting a no at the beginning, because I don't want to waste my time, right? I'd rather get a no in the interview process than get a no after I've emotionally invested time and built an emotional relationship with someone.
Absolutely.
It's easier to break up if I haven't really kissed you, right? That's just my deal. So question for Billy, and then I'll turn it over to you, Roshan, and let you, you go in.
No, we'll bring back this question again. So, but yeah, go ahead, please.
All right. So Edwin asked for Billy, regarding the 5 prospects, what are the best ways to find auto home prospects in the number 3 and number 5 categories? So people seeking info and people with the need.
Okay, so it goes back to what everyone has said. It really depends on what you're good at. So for auto and home, when we're looking at people that have actively shown an interest, for us, that's warm leads, aged internet leads. I'm not a big fan of real-time internet leads. I'd rather buy them aged and save some money on them. That's people that have, when I'm out there doing a Facebook ad or a Google ad, and I really break that down into give me people that have an interest in auto and home. So I want someone that has actively put their information out to somebody saying, I want auto and home. Okay. For me, that's not just about me convincing you that you want auto and home. I want you to have told someone else that you're interested in auto and home. And that could be, like I said, warm transfer leads. That could be age internet leads. That could be telemarketing leads if you generated themselves. But those are probably the easiest. Okay, since if you're new, those are the easiest. That's number 3. Number 4 is former customers. Hell, that's nothing but pulling an audit. If you've been in the business a while, that's pulling an audit. And if you can't pull an audit of your former customers, you need InsuredMine, because this doesn't make sense that you can't pull your own customer data or pull your own former customer data. So I don't know if that answered his question or not, Mick. You can ask him, but that's what I would do. if they didn't, long story short, if they didn't ask for information on auto and home, I don't consider them actively searching for auto and home.
Yep. And he responded and said, great answer, very helpful.
Okay.
That's why he's my mentor, folks.
Yep.
That's why.
That.
Awesome. Now, I just want to bring back, Mick, to that same point that, again, with all these intellectuals, where we are so focused on the business and the process, one thing we cannot underestimate, and which is equally important, is while we are doing and chasing all this business, it's important to be efficient and smart about how we are going to manage it. And so good technology is also a part of that. So, you are a new startup agency like Ryan, and one of the biggest challenges, what technology, and Ryan goes through that every day. What piece do I plug in to make my business do well? And even a seasoned organizations are having that challenge. So, taking that assessment of understanding what would work best for me. I'm not going to say, InsuredMine or anything, but it's just taking that one step back and thinking about technology is also an important aspect of how you're building a trajectory around it.
Let me jump on that real quick. Guys, I can tell in 5 minutes where an agency's mindset is when it comes to processes, sales, things like that. If you start your quote process in the radar, you are price focused, pure and simple. If you start your quote process through your AMS, you are data focused. If you start your quote process through a CRM, you are sales focused. Okay, pure and simple. So where you start the journey tells me a lot about your agency.
I agree. And to Billy's point, the most successful businesses that are sales organizations run off of a CRM, right? Yeah. So that's that point.
Well, the
one
CRM
quick question
allows you to manage the relationship.
Exactly. So one quick question from Deneen, and then Roush, and I'll turn it over to you to close this out. So Deneen says she understands the BOR, but she's a small agency and doesn't have a ton of commercial carriers. Therefore, she finds herself having to quote most of the time to get businesses because she's not appointed with the carrier that they're with. She wants to know what advice we have for her. So Ryan, that's a very similar situation to you. Yeah. What advice do you have for Deneen? She's a small agency, not a lot of carrier representation.
I mean, go call Indium, go indium.com, and then find an MGA wholesaler and give up some commission in exchange for access to the BORs, build up books of business with those carriers, and then move them to direct appointments if you feel that's appropriate. If you'd rather work with the MGAs and the wholesalers, then do that. I like—
Say that again, Ryan, slow that down because that is too important.
Yeah.
Okay?
So what I just said was, so my situation's a little different. I've been in the industry for 15 years. So when I went to get direct appointments, even though I'm a startup, I was able to get some direct appointments with some carriers at the jump that I probably wouldn't normally have, but that doesn't mean that I have them all. So what I have done is I went there's this broad spectrum called market access providers. There are all different kinds of relationships that you can have. There are relationships where they give you everything you could possibly want, and in exchange, you have to give them one of your children. And then there are relationships where you get less services and maybe less carriers, but you have a much more friendly relationship. And there are not, I'm not saying one is better than the other, because you just have to choose what's best for your business. So, okay, what I have chosen and what I think is a route that I would recommend as a first step for a young agency or a small agency is wholesale and MGA market access relationships that do not require much of you at all. So a very good one to look at, use as an example, whether you go with them or not, is goindium.com. It's Indium. It's basically their whole agreement on who owns the business is 4 sentences. You own the business at all times. And if at any time you want to move from a market access to a direct relationship, all you need to do is let us know and we transfer the codes in our book and now it's yours. That's the whole thing. So you're not held hostage. You can leave whenever you want. They don't have every carrier in the world, but they're going to give you most of the big commercials. Then I would find a wholesaler. I have chosen the Simon Agency in New York, and I'm looking at another one in Texas called First Line. And between the two of them, I now, by giving up, so the difference between a wholesaler and a market access company is market access company is like sub accounts and stuff like that. This wholesaler, I'm just giving up commission. It's there. It's, the business is written on their paper. So I'm willing to give up a couple points because between those three organizations, there's not a carrier in the country who writes through independence that I can't have access to if I need a BOR. That doesn't mean I will. It just means I can. And there's no minimums. There's no requirements. So if I never write another piece of business with the Simon Agency, they're good with that. But they have Hiscox. I need Hiscox for a couple of the markets I go after. I give up 2 points of commission and I have complete access to Hiscox. So that's a great relationship for me.
I'd like to answer, if I could, from two perspectives. One, let me give you an answer if you don't represent the carrier. And then I'll give you a second answer if you can't get the broker of record letter, but you want to potentially go through the quoting process. Unless the insured is with a direct writer, I would say you ask for the broker of record letter, even if you're not appointed with the carrier. So if they're not with Farmers, they're not with State Farm, but maybe they're with Travelers, for example, and you don't have Travelers, I say ask for the broker of record letter. If you can get it signed, now we're going to try and do something. Depending upon the size of the premium of the account, I have been able to work with a lot of different agents on getting the appointment from the carrier when you show up with a signed broker of record letter in hand. So if it's a $100,000 premium, the insurance carrier realizes that the BOR has already been signed. The relationship's already severed with that particular agent. If I want to maintain this policyholder, and if it's been profitable, if there hasn't been a lot of claims, the easiest thing for me to do is just to go ahead and give that insurance agency an appointment. I'll accept the broker of record letter going forward. And so many times you can get the appointment from the carrier if you code them with a signed broker of record letter in hand. Sometimes you can't. Okay. But that's the first way that I would address that. Now, usually 1 out of 4 times you're going to get that appointment if it's a sizable enough account. Okay. The other issue is if you don't have access to the carrier and you can't get the broker of record letter, or you're just, you don't want it or whatever it is, there's 3 things you need to ask that insured if you're going to go to the next step. And the first thing is, can you get access to the carriers that you want to have access to? Because if they're not going to give you the carriers that you need in order to be competitive and have a good product, then I'm not going to go through the process of throwing mud against the wall. So I need to be able to establish, and this is why being micro niche is very important. I already know which carriers are the players. If I can say I will need these 3 carriers in order to be competitive, if they're going to give me the carriers I want, that's the first thing. If they don't, I walk away. But that's the first thing. The second thing is that I need to know exactly what percentage I need to be less expensive than the incumbent agent or anybody else to win. Not a spectrum. I need to know, can I be 3% less expensive and you'll fire the other agent and hire me? You'll do business with me if I'm 3% less expensive. I don't want to just say, you know what, you just need to be, showing me with a good price, because I know of lots of agents who showed up 50% less and still didn't get the business because they didn't do it right. So I need to get an actual number from them. The third thing is that I need to be assured that the incumbent agent's not going to get a last look. If the incumbent agent gets a last look, I can't win this game. There's just no way that I can win this game. And so if the insured is willing to give me those 3 things, the carriers I want, an actual percentage, and the incumbent agent's not going to get a last look, or nobody else is going to get a last look, then I can make a business decision if I want to go to the next step. Once I get that information, I'm going to go back to my office. When I get there, I'm going to send them an email. I'm going to reiterate, thank you very much for meeting with me today. Based upon the criteria that we discussed, I'm willing to go to the next step with you. With these carriers, I need to be 4% less expensive, and that you assured me that you're not going to give anybody else's information to me, and you're not going to give my information to anyone else. And I'm willing to go to the next step with that. And also, you got to remind the insured throughout the process and remind them that you're getting close to that 4%. You really think you're going to get there. And then also, when you finally have your quote in hand and you meet with them for your presentation, reiterate those 3 things, because I can guarantee you that they forgot what they told you. They meet with a lot of different insurance agents and they can't remember what they said to who. So you need to be reminding them over the course of time. And all of this, I mean, until you have the signature on that bind order, it's always a prospect, and you're always qualifying that prospect.
Well, I want to talk about that a little bit too. One of the things that we do within our group that's mandatory is we have a cutoff. If it's like 5, and I don't know exactly what that cutoff is, let's say it's $10,000 in revenue, that person has to sign a non-disclosure agreement. They have to. And the reason why we do that is we're saying, look, we're busting our ass. We're doing all this other stuff. We don't want to do all this work. And then you take it to the guy down the street. And because we fixed all his problems, now he's like, oh, yeah, I'll just do all this work and make it look like this. So if I'm going to do this work for you, I need you to sign this non-disclosure saying exactly what Charles said. I'm not going to give, you're not going to give them my information, and I'm not going to get their information. We each have to work on our own. So Deneen, that's something you need to do as well. You don't have to tell me her last name, but I think she's one of mine. So Deneen, if you are one of mine, you make sure you make that one-on-one appointment with me so that we can sit down and take you through this whole process. Okay.
There you go.
That's right, Billy.
Good.
All right.
All right, Ralston. The floor is yours now, sir.
Is he getting ready to close us out? Because there's two things I'd like to bring up real quick.
Please do.
Okay. One, you need to protect your quote. And two, you need to protect your sale. So let me explain real quick how to do that. Protect your quote. The way you protect your quote is you let them know, hey, when you walk out of this office, there are going to be a bunch of things that you're going to think about doing. You're going to think about, oh, let me go compare. Let me go think about this. Let me look at that. Let me look up this. Let me look up that. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to do A, B, C, and D. My dad used to tell me, okay, and I'm married to one of the prettiest women on earth. My dad used to tell me, son, you got to keep a woman busy so that she can't find out that there's something better. Okay? You need to do that with your prospects. Give them tasks to do when they're not with you so that they won't go out and have boredom time and go find other things to do. So we have our people, I need you to watch this 30-minute video that I created specifically for this particular niche. I need you to fill out this form. I need you to come up with these numbers. There's something that you need to tell them to do so that they're not out doing something else, okay? That's how you protect your quote. How you protect your sale is mental. Okay, guys, when you walk out this door, you're gonna hear your neighbor, your brother, your cousin, your sister, everybody's gonna tell you how they could have done it better, how they could have got it cheaper, how they could have done this. Here's what I need you to tell them. You weren't with us. You didn't sit and go through the fact-finding process, the goal-setting process, the problem-solving process that we went through. So he told me you were going to say these things. Here's his number. He even said, if your people have a question about the process we use to come up with this, have them call me and I'll take them through the same process. Mm-hmm. So you're basically shooting down mentally what other people are going to do to try to knock you out of the box. So the first way you protect your quote by having them do stuff. And the second way you protect your sale by mentally making them aware of what's going to happen, what's going to be said. Okay. Thank you, Roshan.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Billy. And again, this is wonderful discussion. I don't even realize we have come to the top of the hour. I think we can go on for next several hours like this. Just to a closure of this, as we are hitting at the top of the hour, I want to be respectful of everyone's time and commitment to this. I'm taking the last question here, Billy Williams, the GOAT. Yeah, right. That's right. I wanna thank everybody who has been patiently listening to us, as well as the panelists here. You know, it does not happen this often that we bring in such a wonderful crew together, but we'll try to do more often and try to talk a lot about this. I know several of you have even been texting on LinkedIn. Also, I have got a couple of messages on InsuredMine. Just to give you a quick underline here is what is InsuredMine as CRM and everything we were talking about from a perspective of, are you prospecting, are you selling, or you are servicing? In all those three elements, you can plug in InsuredMine, and how it is working is it's as an add-on to an agency management system or as an isolated tool for your sales or marketing. But primarily, it is building your automation of how you are selling, how you are marketing to help your clients convert, engage, and retain your clients. And this is something It has a lot from the CRM perspective, from a marketing perspective, from your engagement perspective, a lot more it does. And as Dr. Billy was talking about, this is also purely focused on data intelligence, how we are building that dashboard of showing your business. That is something very unique, very insightful that literally we believe every agency needs to have today. So again, I think it's the combination of people, process, and technology that we are always looking at. Wonderful people are doing all this work out there, like all of you, and the process that these gentlemen talk about every day that they are preaching, how it all comes together. But again, the third piece of that is the technology. What technology you gonna use to leverage these people and process to come at their optimum? So having said that, that's all. I will take the liberty of asking everybody, just in quick 30-second, give your last word of advice to everyone before we wrap up here.
Mentor, I'll let you kick us off.
Okay, yeah, let me get mine over with first because I talk the most apparently. So guys, again, keep this simple, okay? At the end of the day, we do one thing in insurance. We offer the coverage that best protects our customers' quality of life should they have a claim. So what Charles said was so important earlier about making sure that we understand where the real issues are. I like to go to my claims advocate or my claims person and say, hey, what are the top 3 claims you guys are seeing in the industry? And then I build my content around those top 3 things that they say they're seeing, but we offer the coverage that best protects our customers' quality of life should a claim occur. You got 5 best prospects, 10 ways to talk to them. Don't make this complicated.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Billy. Ryan.
I would say that do not use COVID as an excuse to not push hard right now. Like this is the time where you separate yourself. Your peers are going to be complaining on internet chat rooms about that things are hard, and hell yes, things are hard, but that means you need to keep working and keep helping people. There are customers all over the place, personal, commercial, who are hurting. And if you can find a way to help them free up cash flow. I did a webinar today, how to cut costs and free up cash flow in your workers' compensation. I had 30 people, 5 of them have already reached out to me. Commercial customers reached out to me about working through the process. Like people are just dying to have someone show them a solution to their problem and yeah, work the process like these guys talked about, because they're much better at the process than me. But the idea is keep fighting, keep working, separate yourself today. Don't use COVID as an excuse. My kids are 10 feet above my head right now. I'm down here working. So, it's not an excuse. It's hard, yes, but don't get caught in the internet chat room stuff. Push. Now's where you separate.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan. Before we go to Walt, just a quick comment I would take from Mohammed. He just mentioned about, so you can also protect your code by using a proposal system or a simple proposal sheet that talks about you and your agency versus the company. So that's a good advice. Thank you, Mohammed.
So my turn, huh? Yeah, I would reflect what Billy said. Definitely keep things simple. Also reflect what Ryan said. Right now, people are just super sensitive about insurance coverages because this whole COVID thing has impacted insurance coverage. So they're looking at their insurance coverages. When we roll out of this thing, and it's going to be a rollout, everyone's going to be looking at, do they have the right insurance? Is it enough? Because they're questions. It's raised a bunch of questions. There's probably never been a better opportunity to, if you're a hustler, to get out there and write some business. But you've got to be ready to do it. You've got to have the processes to be able to get out there and do it effectively. And also what Charles said, I think is really insightful, is sometimes open up the conversation, not talking about insurance, talk about business problems. Are they having problems hiring staff? Are they having problems with their cash flow? They normally are thinking their priorities are business problems. Their priorities aren't insurance problems unless insurance elevates to where it is a priority. Talk about where they are. Meet your prospects where they are, and then start to build a relationship, because it's going to evolve into a risk management or an insurance conversation at some point.
Perfect. Thank you. Good advice. Thanks, Walt. Charles.
I would say the main thing to take away is Jack of all trades is dead. Don't try and resurrect him. He's dead. So the agent who is really focused on a micro niche is probably going to write more business more quickly. And so, you know, again, if I was like, for example, if I was in Ryan's shoes trying to start an agency, or even like one of you producers who were young, I would go after no more than 3 different micro niches, and I would develop my content and my strategy and my services for those. I would become the go-to player. I would make sure that I only had to have the carriers that I needed for those go-to players. And then like if it was, you know, hair salons, I'm going to write a bunch of hair salons. That's where I'm going to start. Or if it's auto dealerships, I'm going to be the guy that's writing the auto dealerships, because all of your content can be branded for that. You can tell them, here are the top 7 things auto dealerships need to do in order to find their next best salesman. You can put out content like that all day long when you are micro niche, but it's very difficult to do that when you're a generalist. You're going to write more business more quickly, and you'll get more signed broker of record letters when the insured sees you as, and this is the key, take this away, when they see you as being in their industry who just happens to have a specialization in insurance, rather than being another insurance agent who's trying to write some auto dealerships. When they see you as being in their industry, you're much more likely to get the business and the signed BOR.
That's a perfect and terrific advice. Thank you. Wonderful. Last but not the least, Mick, and thank you first to you for, you know, taking this little idea and bringing this wonderful panel and doing this wonderful discussion today. So thank you. But yeah, your last word of advice to everyone out here.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's heard from the greats. I mean, everything that Billy said, Ryan, Walt, Charles has said is there. I don't even need to echo that. My thing is, make sure that you have a interview process, that you have an interview script. You know, Billy hit it when he said, keep asking why. You have to get to the true pain point. If you don't get to the true pain point, walk away. If price is all you can get to, walk away. I'd rather be told no at the beginning than told no at the end. So, you know, there's a lot of great folks here on this panel. None of us are going to mind if you reach out. We're easily found on social. LinkedIn is where I live. I know Billy lives on LinkedIn. We're findable.
Yep.
We're findable.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Mick. 2 quick points before we wrap up here. One, obviously, we will share. So this is recorded. So we will share this. I know several of you have already requested that. So we will share this after this, you know, probably next day or so, once the recording is all done. And last thing is, we will have our next follow-up webinar. Thank you all. Which we want to do is for related to marketing. So as we are focused on sales, now we're going to bring on next is marketing and bring the sales series back. So thank you everyone for your time. And this is wonderful conversation. Until next time, stay tuned.
Thanks, guys.
You're good, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.